this had happened with U.S. or European pilots, it would not have been a problem because they have superior training. Yet, I believe you are aware of U.S. and European pilots who knew this problem was coming in a simulator and were unsuccessful in managing it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm aware of some anecdotal tests that were done with some European and North American pilots that also let the airplane get to a quite high speed, overspeed condition. So I don't believe there's evidence that can support a premise that it's exclusively due to there being developing world countries that these accidents were caused by this.
Right, and also, I think, was it you used the word pandemonium?
Yes, sir.
And that, what are you referring to there?
The fact that when this situation occurs, that when the airplane breaks ground, you get somewhere around 7 simultaneous failures, one of which is very, very distracting, the stick shaker. Literally, the column in your hand is shaking, and it's very loud. So you as a pilot, the training comes into how do you sort through that? Where do you go back to the commonality and sort through that, and in what priority? But with that much noise going on and with these simultaneous failures, the word pandemonium is appropriate, sir.
Yeah, I think NTSB said cacophony, I think is the word they used, but similar.
I've had a stick shaker go off in an airplane with passengers, and it by itself is enough of a challenge, much less now compounded with 6 to 7 other simultaneous warnings and failures. It would be a real handful.
Dr. Ensley, wouldn't that sort of fit into the human factors approach in terms of solving how quickly a pilot could solve that?
Yes, that was a big factor. The idea that pilots could respond in 3 seconds is based on a lot of things, but it have to be a well-recognized cue for a well-trained procedure, and that was not the case here. They had all kinds of multiple competing alerts, which will really slow down decision-making time.
Okay. Mr. Pearson, I mean, you mentioned it in your statement, but I'd just like to revisit it. I think after your extraordinary persistence, when you finally got in to see the general manager of the 737 program, would you just please give us a little color on that meeting, a little more than in your testimony? Yeah.
Congressman, you're referring to, I believe, our July 18th, our July 2018 meeting. As far as just color, if you will, commentary is, the meeting started, it was a follow-up to the email that I had written requesting a shutdown of the factory. I met with him, and I walked in the office, and he asked, why are you here? And I said, I'm here to follow up to my earlier communication with you. And he asked me how it was going, and I explained that it was getting worse, in my opinion, and that I echoed my recommendations. Had a bit of a difference of opinion at that point, and then we talked, and at the end he agreed that that he would pull the overtime records and look at how much work we were asking of our union employees, and I emphasized that not only that's obviously really important because they're the ones doing the lion's share of the work, but also the managers that are overseeing them, and then the engineering quality analysis that I had requested be done to see if there was any possible issues that may have require us to alert our customers.
And nothing changed?
Not to my knowledge. I retired in August.
Right. We asked the CEO in the last hearing after we got that recommendation from you, and did you close down the line? No. Did you slow down the line? No. And apparently none of the engineering reviews that you asked for or overtime reviews, if they were reviewed, they were disregarded. So no, I want to thank, and he did, when you posited that from your experience in the Navy, this would say, no, we got to stop and revisit this and fix it. But he did say to you something about the Navy isn't a profit-making. What was that?
He said that he said when I explained to him that in military operations, if we have these kinds of indications of unstable safety type things, we would stop. And he said that, you know, the military is not a profit-making organization, is what he said.
Now, Mr. Collins, your involvement in the issue regarding the placement of and/or lack of additional protection for the rudder control cable, but, you know, as I understand it, I mean, in the end, there were how many people involved in the what do you call it, a non-concur?
The non-concurrence, well, there was the issue paper non-concurrence, and then there was the SRP panel whose recommendation was rejected, and the board recommendation. So I think it was a total of 13 engineers, 1 project pilot, and 4 managers documented that they didn't agree with the decision.
And this was, to the best of your knowledge, overruled by a single manager who is in the Boeing, I mean, is in the office in Washington State?
Yeah, he's in the consolidated office. He was the transport airplane directorate manager at the time. He's the one that signed it and took responsibility. Others supported it, other managers supported him.
And there were questions raised by the minority that they think, well, you know, we should bring in former FAA Administrator Huerta or somebody else. To the best of your knowledge, did the decision on, because this is only one decision, and there have been others, and we're going to track these things down, but do you think that anyone higher up, like in the national office, was involved in the rudder cable issue or even aware of it?
Well, the safety SRP report, the board's recommendation, the manager had to come back and explain why he disagreed with that. And that went up to Air 2, the Deputy Director of Aircraft Certification.
Oh.
In the earlier decision, it's been my experience in issues like this that they're discussed with the Aircraft Certification Deputy or Director.
And that's someone based in Washington?
Yes, in Washington,
Okay,
D.C.
good.
Yes.
Then that is a string to follow for us, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Thank you. That's helpful. With that, I don't have any other questions at the moment. I'd recognize Representative Norton.